right, we would like to welcome everyone to this week's edition of Get Seen, Be Heard. I'm Christina Daves of PR for Anyone, and my co-host is Karen Yankovich.
Hi, guys.
Great. And our special guest today is Bill Belew, and we will introduce him more formally in a few minutes. What Karen and I always like to start our weekly blab is kind of talk about what's hot in our industry, what's going on, any big exciting news. So Karen, how about it?
Yeah, well, this has been a big week for LinkedIn. LinkedIn has gone like a year without making any changes and then made all these changes in the last week or two. There were changes to messaging initially, and then this week, actually just yesterday, there were changes to groups. And I actually did a webinar yesterday like an idiot. I don't know why I would pick the day it actually changes to do the webinar to show what it does, because of course I didn't have time to really practice it. And a couple of the things weren't actually working yet, but there's things like you can tag people in groups now, which is really nice. So when Christina talks about what she's going to talk about here, I actually posted about that in my group, and it would have been great to have been able to tag her and say, you know, check this article out, you know, our group member Christina, blah, blah, blah. Now you can do that, presumably. Didn't work yesterday, but presumably you can do that. So there's a lot of fun things that have happened. There's some negativity around it. Like people are like, well, it's going to make groups, you know, you can't, they're not open anymore. So now you can't, the only way you can find a group is if somebody invites you to the group or if you have a link to it. That's pretty much the only way I grew my group anyway. You know, my group basically was only, like at the end of every one of my blog posts, I say, come join my group, right? So I drive people to the group. I don't know why we lost Christina, but I drive people to my group on a regular basis other ways. And to me, that's a more authentic way of growing your group anyway. So I'm not too worried about the fact that they're not open anymore. I'm not looking to connect with 5,000 people on LinkedIn. I'm looking to connect with one person at a time. And I think there's new rules around groups is going to make that even more valuable. So that's what's happening in social media this week. At least that's what's been on my mind anyway.
Yeah, and I'm sorry I missed that webinar yesterday. It was crazy. I really wanted to hop in. Do you have a recording of it?
I do. If you go to KarenYankovich.com/webinar, you should still be able to get it.
Okay, so we can all do that, and I definitely will.
Yeah.
So my big news this week, and Karen, every time this happens, she's like, how are you doing this? So I am the hugest proponent of HARO, which is Help a Reporter Out. And it just works, and it just gets you out there in front of hundreds of thousands, millions of people, because it's all national. I've been on national television, national publications, and Saturday had the most amazing write-up in Forbes on both my businesses and promoting my book and links back to both companies. My product-based business is very, very niche. It's fashion accessories for medical boots. And I know that article sparked sales because I had a ton of sales over the weekend, more than I have on a normal basis from organic searches. So if you guys are not signed up for HARO yet, you really need to. And I'll put a link in here because I can't remember what my I think it's PR for Anyone /HARO gift, but I'm not sure. But I have a whole cheat sheet on how you can respond effectively to HARO. So definitely, you know, look into that, and it's just an amazing way to have success in the media.
Yeah, I'm going to put a link here, Christina, to your article.
Oh, okay, cool.
There's a link to the article where Christina was featured in Forbes magazine last week. So big deal.
That's pretty exciting. And my book in Amazon went back up to bestseller.
Oh, get out! All from that article. All from responding to one HARO request.
One HARO, yeah. So don't think I didn't tell my publisher right away. I took a screenshot and I said, look, I'm back up here again. So,
oh my gosh.
Yeah.
How many people here, okay, I'm going to take a vote. How many people here want Christina to run a program to teach our VAs how to respond to HARO requests for us? Right? Me too. She sends me these things and goes, you should respond to this. And I go, yeah, I'll get to it. And then I don't. Right? I want Christina to teach VAs how to support us in our PR efforts.
Okay.
So
that'll
be have nothing else to do.
Yeah. What's one more? I'll just create one more program. No, I like that idea, and I think I'm going to definitely look at that.
All right, so let's introduce Bill here. Bill and I met at a conference a couple of months ago, and I really loved his message. I really loved his energy and his authenticity. And yeah, so I'm going to let you introduce yourself, Bill. Go ahead, go do it. You can do a better job than I can.
All right, so I'm pretty old, so if I introduce myself, it could take a long time. So you got to give me a time frame, like 6 months ago, 6 years ago.
I'll tell you, just go.
All right, so I started off as a professional blogger in 2006.
Wow.
Blogging has grown up and it's now become content marketing. So bloggers, used to be people who whined, that didn't have love lives, didn't like the government or anything like that. And there are still a lot of people who do that, but nobody cares anymore. But if you do it and do it well, blogging is by far the very best way to be found as opposed to go find. Now, I respect you guys greatly for the effort you put into, the Haro thing. I don't know how you say it, Haro. Now, I kind of joined it, but I never followed through on it. But Karen just brought up a tremendously good idea. I have a virtual assistant, Stella. She's amazing. That's something else I can give her to do. And it just makes sense. So I have great respect for people who are out there pushing hard, trying hard. But my whole gig is, or spiel is, if I create really good, solid content, people are going to find me. And in the past 6 years, 2006, or the past 9 years, without blowing any smoke, I've had about 95 million organic visits. Every single one of them, people look for me. I never paid for anything. I don't pay for anything. I won't pay for anything. And I created most of the content, but I hired people after a while. So it's a network of sites. And from those 95 million organic visits, we've been well over 150 million page views. Now, here's an interesting question. So, you know what happens when you get to 100 million page views?
No, I have no idea what happens.
Yeah.
Right.
Nothing.
It starts raining money.
No, nothing. Nothing happens. It's just a number. So all it is bragging, right? So I mean, big numbers don't mean anything if people don't come to your site. So just like Christina pointed out, you went to the Forbes, you got reviewed, people started buying books. That's what's cool. Who cares how big the numbers are if your phone's not ringing, your email box is not filling up. So I don't like to talk about what I have been able to do, although I've been able to do some cool things. What's more fun for me is to be able to talk about what my students have done, what my clients are able to do. And that's what's fun. So not only am I able to get 1 million people to show up in a niche a bunch of different times for a bunch of different niches, but now I've been able to teach other people how to do that. And they are able to teach other people how to do that. And that's what's fun for me, to see people be found.
Right.
It's fun to be out there, but by golly, it gets pretty tiring sometimes.
Right.
The slog, up and down, schlepping things up and down the coast of California, getting on the plane, going back and forth. I've been to India a couple of times, and India is fun. It's fascinating. The first time you get on the plane and go there, it's exotic. The second time you go there, it's just really far away.
Right.
And if my clients were rich enough to fly me in the front of the plane, that would be better. But if you fly in the back of the plane, it's just a miserable experience. Right. So that's a short and dirty version. I can go on and on, but that's who I am.
So tell us. So I've heard a little bit about your theories, right, and the way what you teach. So, but tell us a little bit about what the first couple steps are to making our blogs more effective. Because I'm a big proponent as a social media consultant. I'm like, if you're writing a blog, I want you to get the biggest bang for that. If you've taken the time to do it, what can you do to get a bigger bang for that? But you, I don't think you would disagree with that. But I think you also have some other ways of bringing attention to blogs. So tell us a little bit about that.
So you brought up the word theory, and I'll take issue with that, not because I don't love you, but it's not a theory. I've been able to prove this. I have empirical evidence. So what I did about 2 years ago is I live in San Jose. I live in Silicon Valley. I'm about 1.5 miles from Yahoo in one direction, 2 miles to Apple in the other direction, 4 miles to Google in the other direction. And I can throw a rock. I can literally throw a rock and hit LinkedIn's headquarters from where I live. I have to throw pretty hard, but it's right there. What that translates into is my mortgage is really high. It's really expensive to live here. But I went downtown San Jose and I knocked on the door of an MBA program, physics, knocked on the door, and they let me in. And I said, I'd like to teach a class here on, I will prove to you that if you just blog, don't do anything else. If you just blog and you do it the way I tell you, people will come to your website. I said, I will teach this class for free. You don't have to pay me. I'll just want to prove to you that all you have to do is put up a WordPress website and do what I tell you for as long as I tell you, and people will start coming to your website. Well, they paid me anyway, but I ended up with 70 students. 70 students. 10 of the students looked at the syllabus and I ain't going to work that hard, and they left. That was good. Another 10 students, they were too stupid, so I threw them out. Another 10 students, they cheated. They cut and pasted content and tried to fool me, and I caught them and I threw them out. But I ended up with 40 students. I took these 40 students. I said, now just write like this. create your post like this, put this many characters in your title, add this many images, and I want you to do it this many times each day, and I want you to do it for this long, and you will see people find you organically. And we did that. And at the end of 4 months, my best students were getting anywhere from 3,000 to 5,000 organic visits to their website. They were getting 7,000 to 10,000 page views per month. Wow. To their website in the niche topic that they picked. One was the travel, one was food, one was health, one was social media or whatever. So I don't care what the niche is. You pick whatever you want. Just do what I tell you. Nobody promoted anything. Nobody tried to tweet or Facebook or like. Nobody did any of that stuff. All they did was write, link to each other, and do it in good form. And people started showing up. And I have those case studies. I have their Google Analytics. I can log in and I can prove it empirically that blogging done correctly will attract good readership.
So what are your top 3 tips for blogging correctly to make this work?
Right, the number one thing you can do that's top 3. Okay.
You can make it 4 or 5.
Use WordPress. Okay. People agonize over WordPress. What should I do? Don't agonize anymore. Don't go to Mix. Don't go to Wibbly. Don't go to anything else. Don't go to Tumblr. Do not create your presence on somebody else's platform. That's the equivalent of setting up a lemonade stand in somebody else's front yard. You can do that for a while and you can sell lemonade, but once you start making some money, they're going to kick you out of their front yard. They're going to ask you to give them a share. So get self-hosting. You pay $9.99 for the domain. Pay $7 a month for the cheapest you can get. Install WordPress. It's free. I like free. And then just get started. I'll go back to my students. My students, it was 3,000, 5,000 organic visits. None of them, not one single one of those students paid a single penny to improve their website. They spent nothing on SEO. They didn't tweak it. They used the white and black default WordPress template.
Wow.
I mean, I have people come to me and say, Bill, I just spent $1,500 on my website. I'm ready to go. I said, what, are you nuts? Don't you think I have feelings? You're going to give me $1,500. I could have done it for $200, and you don't even need to do that.
Yeah.
Right. So you can do it. So the very most important thing you can do is get online. Right. You're never going to get anybody to find you if you're not there to be findable. So get online, get a domain name. Don't agonize it. Don't buy anything that ends in bitch. Yankovich. People know how to spell that. Buy something that people know how to spell. I'm sorry, Karen.
That's okay. I actually bought Karen Y also. So if I need to send people to my website, Karen Y forwards to Karen.
GoDaddy invited me to GoDaddy not long ago, and the ideal length of a domain name is something like 9 characters.
Really?
Something around 9 characters long. But the root domain doesn't matter anymore. What matters is that what comes after .com, the / category. You can create categories that people can find, followed by the URL. So we don't care about that anymore. So step number 1 is get a domain name, get the cheapest hosting you can find, install WordPress, and get online. Step number 2 is start writing. Just write something. You don't know what you want to write about until you start writing about it. And then you'll find that, well, I could keep writing about this. Well, then keep writing about it. Or you're going to say, man, I'm tired of writing about this. Well, then don't write about that. That's not your topic. Just start writing about the things that you care about. Don't worry about SEO. Don't worry about formatting. Don't worry about nothing. Let's find out what you care about. And the best way you can do that is to start hitting the publish button. Hit the cotton pick and publish button. Like, nobody will ever find you until you start putting up good stuff. Here is a law of the universe. If you want people to find you, give them more stuff to find. That's not brain science right there.
Right.
So my experience is people have written 30 articles, and they say, how come nobody finds me, Bill? I wrote 30 articles. Well, the reason nobody finds them is because I wrote 30,000 articles and I buried them. Right. Now, if somebody says, well, I don't want to sacrifice quality because I did quantity, I'll throw up on my screen. You don't have to sacrifice quality to do quantity. That's absolutely ridiculous. I have a forum. I put a list of 199 topics you can write about, and they're all great topics, and you haven't sacrificed anything. Now, Bill,
one of the things that I did after I met you and listened to all that, because I took it to heart, I realized that I was doing a weekly social media quick tips video on Facebook every week. And with very little effort, I was able to take that video, pop it on YouTube, get it transcribed. They're 3 to 5 minutes, so it cost me $5 to get it transcribed. Now that's a second blog post every week for content that I had already created. You know, it was just a couple of steps, and now I've doubled the output on my blog. Instead of blogging once a week, now I'm blogging twice a week. You know, with
how long was that transcript? How long was that transcript?
Well, like I said, they're 3 to 5 minutes long. So you go to rev.com, they pay $1 a minute, and
all right, so 3 to 5 minutes long. You can talk about 150 words a minute. So you got 5 minutes. That's 750 words. I would turn that into 2 blog posts, and I'll call it part 1 and part 2, and you'll get double the mileage out of it.
That's a really good point. That's a really good point. I mean, it's associated with a video, but I could do that. You
install the video on there. That would be number 3, is get your formatting right. If you ask me for the top 3, the top 1 is get online. Number 2 is start writing something. Number 3 is get the formatting right. And that's kind of beyond the scope here. But
no, I want to hear it.
Ask yourself this question. When you put something in a search engine box, you put something up at the top, you write in a search there, and here comes the solutions, right? Here's my options. You click on option, you open it up. What's the very next thing you do after you open up what you want to read? If you're like 100% of other people, you'll scroll down to find out how long it is, right? And if it's too long, you're not going to read the dumb thing because I don't want to spend that much time reading it. Right. So you don't want posts that are too long. This whole idea that you got to be long to be found it's stupid. And people don't want long answers. The number one reason why people abandon a piece of content is because it's too long. So what you want to do? So what you want to do is say, the number one reason for being found is because it's too long. The number one reason is because they left because it was too long. So if you got a 750-word article, let's split it up in 2 parts. And say this is part 1 and part 2. Link part 1 to link to part 2. Then link part 2 back to part 1. You get double the mileage out of it. You can use the same basic title, colon or parentheses, part 1 and part 2. And you'll get found. You get twice as many opportunities to be found.
Love that.
And you haven't hurt anybody's feelings. You haven't harmed anybody, and you've doubled the miles on your post. If you want people to find you, give them more stuff to find.
There's our nugget, everybody. That's it. We always say that. We always get one super easy, great nugget, and that's it. It's brilliant because I'll post 750-word blogs. You're right. Cut it up, part 1, part 2. Send them back and forth. You get to part 2, you miss part 1, go back over here. That's brilliant.
But see, there's all sorts of reasons why that works well besides that, because search engines are stupid. They can't even think. They can't say this is good, this is bad. But search engines love to count. Oh, there's more here than there is there. Oh, look at this. Oh, something happened. I better go see what happens. They just have to go back and forth. Oh, look at that. I gotta go back and forth. Oh, there's more. There's another one. There's another one. Oh, look at that. They're connected to each other. Oh, I love when they connect things. Search engines get all excited when things are connected because they have to crawl around and look at it. You see, that's good stuff.
Right.
So when you link to yourself back and forth, you've created a little bit of internal web. And search engines love webs. And when they got webs and you put a video in, look at the video. I can go watch a video too. I got to call my friends. I got to call my video transcribing friends so that people know what's in this video. And search engines get all excited about complexity. And by creating parts 1, part 2, part 3, and linking them together, you've made search engines all excited and you make people happy because they can get an answer in about 250 words. And they can go on to read more if they want to read more. So when's the last time you searched something and you found the answer to your search query in the 300, 400, 500, 600th word of an article?
Now, Bill, do you?
It's not there. It's always in the first 200 words. So if you write something longer than 350 words, you're not doing it for search engine findability.
Do you recommend going back to our longer blog posts and shortening them and adding more? Like now, like go back in time or start doing this today?
Well, that would depend on how many posts you have back there.
I don't have a ton.
I got about 1,500 posts. I'm not going to go back and fix them.
No, but somebody like me who tries to do one a week but doesn't really get one a week done, is that worth it? Will I get more bang for my buck?
You will. I'd hire your virtual assistant to go back there and do that for you.
Okay, that's great. All right.
So there's a couple of questions here. So Angelica is in complete agreement with you. She's following the part 1, part 2 method, and it works for her. And then Rodney's asking, other than our own website, where else should we post blogs? So
where else don't? You don't have to. Don't worry about it.
I knew that was coming. But
so what you want to do is reach out to other people. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Here's Christina, though, that just got featured in Forbes, although that wasn't your own blog. That was
That's right.
Somebody wrote
it's good form to write on other people's websites. If you want to get a backlink, everybody wants a backlink. If you want to get a backlink, give something away. That's what Christina did. She gave something away, and look what she got for it.
Now,
Right.
Bill, I recommend to my coaching clients that you're better off being a guest blogger on a high-ranking blog than you are putting really great content on your own, not very active blog.
Now, so I'm going to put really great content on my website, and I'm going to put something different that's really great on somebody else's website.
So you're right. But I always tell them because for people trying to get publicity, what I tell them that their blog is to show a journalist that they're credible. So when a journalist goes to check them out as the expert in their industry, they have written good content about, their expertise. But what I tell people is if you want to build your following and get more people knowing what you do and knowing about your expertise, you are better off writing for or being written about on a high-ranking blog.
Right. So, but a high-ranking blog, I'm on the blab here. The high-ranking blog is not going to invite you to write on their website until you have good stuff on your own site.
Correct. True.
There are too many people who are trying to go social, say, come socialize with me, socialize with me. And I'm saying, you're nobody. Why would I want to socialize with you? First, you put good, high-quality content for a period of time on your own site so that when the Haro looks at you, wow, this is somebody I'd actually like to talk to. Right. You put 6 blogs on your website, and then you go out reaching to Haro and these other places, they're going to come look at you. Who are you? You haven't done your work yet. So first build high quality on your site and then reach out, not the other way around.
That's really good. Really good advice. Really good advice.
I'm sorry.
So Bill, when you talk about, you threw a number out at me that blew my mind a little bit, and I'm not even close to it, but how often should we be blogging, do you think, every week?
Well, the answer to that question is how many people do you want to come to your website?
1 million.
Okay, if you want 1 million people to come to your website, you're going to write 15 times a day.
Oh, a day.
A day.
Okay.
Now, see, well, you're trying to compete with the world. You're not going to do that writing one article a day.
Right. Right.
Now, I have a guy, I have a case study. This is a fellow who writes about Chinese law. Who cares about Chinese law? Well, he cares about Chinese law. He writes about that. He only does it once a day. He ignores all the rules. He writes these big, fat, long articles. He doesn't format it correctly. He just writes it. He'll get 7,000, 8,000, 9,000 people read that blog every day.
Wow.
It took him 9 years.
Wow. Now,
if you're going to write one very long article a day and do that for the next 9 years, you'll build up a following of 10,000 people a day times 30. That's 300,000 a month. You've got that much time, go for it. But if you're trying to build a following and you want to do it soon, you have to write a lot more. Now, don't sacrifice the quality. Don't put up garbage. You don't have to do that. So I started back, as I mentioned, March 06. I know how many days it took me. I know how many blog posts I wrote. I know how many times I hit the publish button. I know how many words I wrote to get to the first 1 million unique visitors.
Wow.
Right? It took me about 13 months, and it took me 4,200 blog posts. So it takes 13 months, multiply that by 30, and divide that into 4,200, and you'll see how much I was writing.
So that was like 5 a day? 3 a day?
Yeah, I was writing more than 5. When I started off with 5 a day. I soon went up to, and then they gave me another site, and I went up to 10 a day, and then they gave me another site, and I went up to, I was writing 15 articles a day.
Wow.
But I was doing news commentary, right? So it's a lot easier to write news commentary than it is to write original, out of my head stuff. I don't have that many words in my head. I kind of shrivel up, right? But I lived in Asia for 20 years, so I know a whole lot about Asia. You can throw anything in Japan about me. I can write about that for a very long time. So it's a lot easier to write commentary than it is to write 15 tips a day. There's not that many tips out there, right?
Right.
So what you want to do, one of the easiest things to do is who else is anybody in your industry? Well, let's start writing a review of them. What do they write about? Let's go to their websites and write about them. What conferences do you go to? Well, let's do a review of those conferences. When you go to conferences, which breakout sessions do you go to? Why did you go there? Tell me what's good about that. When you go to a breakout session, you learn that. That's a good point. Why was that a good point? How did it make a difference? Let's just start sharing all the stuff that we do that causes us to be better people, step by step by step by step. And it gets really easy to write, and it's good, solid content, and we're giving stuff to people that's valuable to them. Now, if I'm going to go to a conference where they're teaching me about LinkedIn, I want to know, what does Karen Yankovich think about that?
So on the topic of
You see
LinkedIn,
what I'm saying? We can build our credibility by giving commentary on the niche that we live and work in.
right,
And it's not hard, it's just
right.
tedious.
So we've gone back and forth on the topic of posting on LinkedIn. I've noticed you've been posting more often on there lately. So what is your thought on that? It's not your website.
Yes, I can post on LinkedIn because LinkedIn has its own internal search ecosystem.
Mm-hmm.
So if I put content on LinkedIn and somebody's searching it, they're not going to find LinkedIn's stuff over my own. So anything I put on LinkedIn is something I've written elsewhere that already belongs to me. I just cut and paste it and stick it over there. And even if they did search it and found it on LinkedIn before they found me, they still found me on LinkedIn.
That's exactly what I say. So it's good to see we're on the same topic. So somebody's saying, oh, I never place content on LinkedIn. Yeah, just what Bill said. If somebody finds it without finding your website first, they wouldn't have found you otherwise. So it's just a way to get a different set of eyes on content you've already created.
Right, so I'm going to Shanghai in about 3 weeks because somebody found my content from China, found my content on LinkedIn. So, oh, he writes about China. He must know about content marketing. Maybe he'll come to Shanghai and teach us how to do it. So I've been there twice this year, and I got to go back. I don't get to go back. I've got to go back.
That's cool. That's very cool. But it's an interesting thing. So there's ways that you can repurpose this stuff because it sounds like a whole ton of work, Bill. And I know we're already overworked. So we've got to find, for me, I like to try and find ways to make it as simple as as processed as I can, like steps that just happen.
All right, so the way I go about this, the problem is I did a webinar not long ago, well, a little bit long ago now. I had a list of 27 different ways you could repurpose your content. And while I was reading that list of 27 ways to repurpose content, I came up with some more of my own. So we'll call it, 30 just for fun, make it a round number. But the average business will so if you got 30 different ways to repurpose something you've created, the average business will use between 6 and 7 of those. So they'll pick out of those 36 different ways to do it. So if I've got 30 ways to do something and I can choose any 6 of them, I now have 30 times 29 times 28 times 27 times 26 times 25 different variations of a content marketing plan that I could go with, which is exceedingly overwhelming. You're going to kill me if I try to come up with that many. So what I teach my clients is, pick the 3, not more than 4 that you really like to do, and just do them well. Right. Just pick 3 or 4 ways of repurposing. Let me write something. Now let me build a webinar around it. Now let me sit in front of my camera and create a YouTube and call it a day.
Right.
When you try to spread yourself too thin, you end up not doing anything well. I like to bring up the fact, I hope this is okay, I'm a Christian. I'm not ashamed of that fact. And one of the things I've learned about the devil, the tactic of the devil, that if he cannot stop you from doing something good, he will give you so many good things to do that you don't do anything right.
Ah, interesting.
Right? And so if you've got 27 ways to market your content, you think, well, I'm going to use all 27 of them. What you effectively have done is destroyed any ability to get anything of quality done right.
Right.
See, that's when quantity destroys quality, when you spread yourself too thin.
Right. And can we talk about that with social media? And I say that too. Social media can become overwhelming, so I focus on LinkedIn and Twitter because that's where my customers are, and I do those 2 really, really well. So because you can't, Karen can, but most of us can't be.
I pay people. I pay people. We all should be getting help with some of these things. We don't have to do it all ourselves, But when I say that, like let's use that what I talked about before, the little videos I did on Facebook. I literally do screenshot videos on my computer. Like, hey, have you guys seen the new LinkedIn groups? I literally just talk. It's not fancy. It's nothing special. As soon as it's done, it goes in a Dropbox folder that my VA has access to. And let's say your VA is anywhere from $25 to $35 an hour. She's taking it from the Dropbox folder, adding bumpers to the video, putting it on YouTube, putting that YouTube post on Facebook, and then sending it to Rev for another $5. It's going up as a blog post, and then writing tweets to it. And all of that takes about a half hour for her. So it's costing me about $15 maybe, and 5 minutes of my time to do a screenshot video that needs no prep whatsoever. So content marketing doesn't have to be, while it might sound overwhelming, if you have a system and you have help that is that you train really well. Like if you just throw it at her and say do something with it, it's going to be a lot more complicated. But by giving people a system as to what to do with it, content marketing becomes a lot easier, I think.
I'm with Christina. I use Twitter and I use LinkedIn. I badmouthed Twitter for so long that somebody finally got mad at me. So I'm going to pitch my forum here. I hope that's okay. I got my name, BillBelew.com. I got a forum, forum.thebillbelew.com. forum.thebillbelew.com. It's free. There's no advertising. I don't spam people. And we discuss all these things in there. Well, I badmouthed Twitter for so long that somebody in the forum finally got on there and said, well, you're an idiot. And Steve Cartwright, I love Steve now because he said, you're an idiot.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
And so he did. I shut up long enough to be taught. You know, that's really hard for me. You know, Winston Churchill says, I like to be taught, but sometimes I don't like to learn, right? And so Steve Cartwright, he said, this is how you use Twitter. And so I put my head down and I started doing what he told me. And about 3 months ago, I had 11,000 Twitter followers. This morning, I had 41,000 Twitter followers.
Oh my gosh.
I multiplied that by 4 just by doing what Steve told me. Well, that doesn't mean anything if I don't engage with those people.
Right.
But now I can go to my Google Analytics and I can show you that I'll get 400, 500, 600 people from Twitter every month. They will leave Twitter, they will come to the forum, and they will spend on average 3 minutes apiece. You think, holy cow, they don't spend that much time on Twitter, much less leave Twitter and come to my forum and stay there for 3 minutes. So I have learned how to use Twitter to engage with people. I've had somebody on Twitter, they come to the forum, they got the forum, we interacted. Now she's in my 1-year program. That's kind of cool. And now I can do the same thing with LinkedIn. LinkedIn people will leave, not like they do in Twitter, but LinkedIn people, I get 50, 60 people a month will leave LinkedIn. They'll come to the forum and they'll engage for about 2 minutes apiece. And if I can't engage with somebody in 2 minutes or 3 minutes, then I have a lousy site. Then I have to reevaluate why are people leaving so quickly. So I use Twitter, I use LinkedIn, and I have a YouTube channel, and I have you can tell here, I got a face for radio, and I got a voice that doesn't match radio. But I have a YouTube channel. I don't do anything with it, but I probably have, I don't know, 400 or 500, not 40 or 50 videos up there just because I didn't like it, I did anyway. But there's a group up in Sacramento. They said, we searched, we found your videos on YouTube. And they hired me, and now they're paying me 4 figures to create a 1-hour video for them. Well, that's
very nice.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not trying to blow smoke. I'm trying to be transparent here. And so, just by, like you said, you get this system. Yeah. I create a webinar. I record the webinar. The webinar is done. So I've got it saved in a PDF, and then I can click upload and send it up to YouTube. And then I pass it off to my assistant, Stella. I love Stella. She's golden. And then she'll do the rest with it. She'll, put titles in there and put a little description on there, and then I just go on with my life.
Right.
Now, I want to be the creative type. I don't want to be the mechanical type.
Yeah.
And I have a philosophy that if I can get somebody else to do it, I will get them to do it.
Yeah.
If I could pay somebody else,
it doesn't end up costing you as much as you think. Number one, right. And number two, it's the only way to grow It's the only way to grow and really profit with your business, I think. On the topic of Twitter, Bill, Twitter is the #1 source of traffic to my website. It always is. When I take on private clients, their Twitter then becomes the #1 source of traffic to their website. So obviously, if I did more blogging, maybe I would have more organic traffic as well. But part of my process is when I write a blog, my blog post isn't done until I've written 3 tweets to that blog post. And those 3 tweets go into a queue that runs forever and ever, driving traffic from Twitter to every one of my blog posts, no matter how old they are. I'm constantly sending links out on Twitter, not constantly, but every day, a couple of links go out to old blog posts as well as the new ones. And it's all done automatically and systematically. I don't touch it anymore.
Well, see, the first thing I do is I get my clients up to around 200 posts. As quick as I can get them to have a depth of content, then I move them over to Twitter so they have something to keep tweeting about.
Right.
If we can revive old posts, a good Twitter plugin is revive old posts. You pay $10 for the month, and you can attach images and that sort of thing. But if they only have 10 blog posts, they don't have anything to tweet about.
Right.
So as soon as we got some deep content, then we can just repurpose that content by retweeting it, and then they can start following people. People start following back. So now I try to build the credibility of the site before I go social. But then the first place I'll go is Twitter now. Right. Don't tell Steve that. He'll get all bloated.
I have to hang out in your forum more. I got distracted and I haven't been in them enough lately. So you guys should all join the forum. I put the link in there. So let me ask you another question, and then if anybody wants to jump in, and ask Bill questions, come on in. You talked about LinkedIn and how if you're only posting content that has already been posted somewhere else. What about other blog sites? Like, for example, for me, I am approved to post to Social Media Today, and I can actually give them an RSS feed that every time a blog goes out on my site, it can automatically go out on Social Media Today. I don't do that. I do it like I just said to my VA, start sending them like one post every 2 weeks or so that we've already created. But what do you think about that? Like using the same content on other people's sites?
You're saying the exact same
I'm not.
content?
Okay.
Yep.
Go ahead, Kristen. You asking me or Christina?
No, I want to clarify that, Bill, because I've heard that if you use the exact same content on different sites, you get dinged by Google.
Well, that's why I'm asking the question. So I'm using the exact same content, as most of the Social Media Today posts, by the way, are already posted somewhere else on the internet.
See, I'm not going to give my content to somebody else. I'm not going to do it.
No?
Because invariably, no, I just simply, as a rule, if I wrote it first and it exists on my website and somebody else wants to be posted on their website, I will call them a thief. And if I gave it to them, I will call myself stupid. I'll put a big S on my head and call myself stupid.
But what if it gets more visibility?
No, it's not. And what's going to happen eventually is they're going to, well, not every time, but a majority of the time, they're going to outrank you. And so what happens is people end up going to Social Media Today and find Karen Yanko, and then they stay there. And I don't want that to happen. So I'm not going to give my stuff to be duplicated elsewhere. Just not going to do that. I have in the past experienced people grab my stuff. They call it scraping. Right. And so what they would do, they would grab my content, they would scrape it, they would drop it into a translator. They would take my English post, they would translate it to Russian, to Greek, to German, to English, to Chinese, to Spanish, and back to English. And so it was convoluted enough, but it started with me. And then they would repost it as their own. And then that would outrank my site.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. And that's really interesting. But all of these sites, Huffington Post as well, all of these big sites are using content that people are creating for them. So
that's right. You can create it originally for them. I will do that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Now, what if they give you credit? Somebody asked here on that, and I had that question too. What if they say, from Bill Belew's site or link back to your forum?
I can't eat credit.
You what?
I can't eat that. That doesn't serve me well. So if I'm going to put my content on somebody else's site, I'm going to create the content myself. I'm going to make it original, and I'm going to put it there. Right? It's going to be something unique to them, something that serves them that can't be served anywhere else. And then I will add a link there that comes back to me. I've given myself over to other people. Right? So I have written for other sites. I write for other sites. I do that.
Okay, we're jumping. I'm sorry, guys, but we're not.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm not sure about that. Well, he's better looking than me. So anyway, I will create something original for other people's high quality sites. But I don't want people stealing my stuff and putting it on their site and just giving me credit for that. Doesn't help me.
Right. Okay. So then I'm sitting here looking, okay, I don't really want to write another blog post. If I'm going to write another blog post, I'm going to put it on my site. Yeah. But I want the visibility of Huffington Post and Social Media Today. So that's kind of where I'm at. That's kind of where my head is at.
Contact Social Media Today. You contact Huffington Post, or some writer on Huffington Post, and say, "Can I write something for you?"
Oh, they don't care what I write. I can absolutely write it. It's once I get approved, I could do either.
Why then I'll create something original for them if I think it's useful.
Okay.
So I have written for other search engine websites. Search engines. Who cares about? Well, I have to, and so I've written stuff for other sites like that, and I still get traffic from that a year after the fact.
Right.
So if it's a high quality site and I respect them enough, I'll create something. There's an article coming out here in about a week and a half or so. It's a very high quality WordPress, how themes work and all that kind of stuff. It's kind of codey and boring and all that kind of stuff. But I pitched the idea to them. Said, can I write a series for you on how if you create a forum, it will give you better organic traffic? So I reached out to them. I contacted them. It's a really cool site. I encourage you to watch it. And they're very transparent. I love transparency. There are too many people who say, "Oh, it's a trade secret, and that just means you don't know what you're doing or how it worked for you." But they're very transparent. So I like to be transparent too. Now I'll tell people everything I know, and they still won't do it. Right, Christina? People still want their hands held. They still want to be coached. They still want to be held accountable. And so I pitched the idea. Let me write a very long. It's about 1,500 words. It took me a couple weeks to write the thing. But they're going to put it on their site. They're going to have 30,000 people read that. And those people who really care are going to click through and come to see how forums that. You see, that I'll do for people, because I like to give something. Fundamentally, if you want something, you need to give something.
Right.
Right. And so if people are taking from you, you're not giving. So if they're taking from you, you're not getting anything. Right.
Right.
So if you want something, give something. If you want something, don't ask for something. If you want something, give something.
So Jose, welcome.
Thank you.
You had some questions there. I'm glad you jumped in. Let's talk about this stuff live.
Yeah, I'm kind of new to the blogging world. I just started maybe a month ago. And so, yeah, I know. And so one of the questions I had was that, sharing your blog post to other bigger sites, isn't that good for someone who's really new in the blogging world and doesn't really have a whole lot of traction as, getting their word out there of what they're writing about?
No, it's not any good. And I'll tell you, the reason I think it's no good is because if you're just starting off and you wrote something, you shared that with another high-quality site, the other high-quality site doesn't care because you just started off. First, you have to establish yourself as somebody worth caring about, right? And so if you want to share your content with other people just like you who are just starting off. So what we want to do is we want to write 2 or 3 really good articles, and then we want to go out and find somebody who's really, really high quality, who cares about who all the world cares about, and say, hey, would you look at me? And he or she thinks, well, I've been doing this for 6 years. Why should I care about someone who's been doing this for 6 days?
Yeah, and that makes sense. That does make sense.
I get it. There's this law. There's this mindset that I want to reach out to somebody, and I want that somebody to tell their somebodies that I'm somebody. And it doesn't work.
Okay.
Right.
First, you want to establish yourself as somebody, reach out to other somebodies just like you, and give them something. If you want something, give something. I cannot emphasize that. I keep saying that because that's how it works. If somebody reaches out to me and say, hey, can I give you, can you put my link on your website? No, I'm not going to put your link on my website. They want something. If somebody says, can I write this really high quality article about this topic, and I think this is really good and I think it's relevant, and in passing we write about the same thing, is that all right with you? That's good, because they want to add quality. If you want somebody to give you something, give them something.
And that's so true. That's in PR too. If you want to build a relationship with a journalist, don't say, hey, write a story about me. You start sharing their work. Oh, I read this great article. You give them social media love, you share that, and then you have a warm lead when you start to do your pitching.
Yep.
Give first, always.
Okay, so.
Yep.
Right. Well, that's what I said to Angelica, who mentioned earlier she wants to get featured on Forbes. Well, I would be BFFs with the person that wrote your article, not in a pitching way, just in a Christina's article was great. I love this. I love that. Just let them get to know your name, and you never know what can happen.
It's funny that you say that, because when I pitched in Harrow, she had a great article about a woman who got her product into Williams-Sonoma and how she did it through social media. And when I pitched Cheryl, I had read her article and I talked about that, and she loved that I knew. And then she told me about an issue she had with her editors with that article and blah, blah, blah. But that was an instant relationship starter for us.
Right.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm just starting out. So is it more important to start building these relationships with other bloggers to try to get my voice out there? Or should I just, kind of like what y'all suggested, reaching out to these individuals and just saying, hey, here's what I have to share. What can we do for each other?
So I would do either one of those. The first thing I would do is I'd spend the next 2 months writing something really good.
Okay.
And then when I've established myself as somebody worth socializing with, then I would reach out.
Okay. So really take the time to develop my point of view almost.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
So really just take the time to develop my point of view.
Absolutely. We want to socialize. So if you meet somebody in a social situation, and that person says, hey, I'd like to hang out, I'd like to spend the rest of my life with you. Hey, I'd like to introduce you to all my girlfriends or my boyfriends. I'd like to introduce. Who are you? Who are you? Who are you? And why would I want to socialize with you? First establish yourself as somebody that I want to hang out with.
Okay.
Right. And you know, Bill does a really good job of this.
You can't do it.
Bill does a really good job of this in his forum, helping new bloggers learn how to position themselves and who to connect with and how to connect with them. And you're so generous with your time in that forum, Bill.
Well, in that forum, I said this morning, there are 1,156 members. 1,156 members. And I don't know where Jose went, but what I want to say, there are 1,156 people who want to build a relationship with you.
Right.
There are other people just like him. That's the greatest place in the world to meet people. Say, hey, I want to meet you, and give me something. Don't go in there saying, give me something. Go in there saying, hey, I'd like to just know who you are. What's your website about? Go read their website. Build a relationship. Establish yourself as somebody that I want to socialize with before you ask me to socialize with you.
So I have a question. So
1,000 other people. There's 1,000 other people just like you, Jose. Go to the forum.
Okay.
It's free. There's no ads. I'm not going to spam you. I hate spam.
Well, that's great.
Well, I like
so
spam.
where's this format? Was it in the message, the comment area? I must have missed it.
It is. It's forum.billbelew.com, right?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Not plural.
forum.billbelew.com. You have to sign up and confirm your email address, otherwise it doesn't work.
Okay, perfect.
Right.
Oh, I see the link. Oh, thank you.
Right. Don't go in there asking for stuff. Don't ask for stuff. I'll delete you. I'll throw you out.
What's your blog about, Jose? What are you blogging about?
Well, right now I'm just kind of blogging about being a newbie recruiter. I've only been in this for about 6 months now.
Being a what?
A newbie recruiter.
Well, I thought you said Navy recruiter.
No,
I was in the Navy
newbie.
a long time ago.
Newbie. I'm brand new to the recruiting world. And so,
All right, so you're brand new. So why would I want to entrust my future with you?
well, my whole goal was just kind of share what I'm learning along the way. So I know a lot of this information's out there, but I know there's other recruiters out there who are learning just like I am, who are learning about all these resources and tools. And so right now, my point of view is just kind of share what I'm learning as I go.
All right, see, that's good stuff. So let's share what you know or what you're learning while you go. And let's do that for a while. And then once you've established yourself, then we'll come back and see who you are. Now, you said there's a lot of recruiters out there and a lot of recruiters who already know all the tips and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I get that, but I don't know what you think about that. Here are the top 10 tips for getting a job, okay? Well, Jose, what do you think about those top 10 tips? One by one, tell me what you think about tip number 1. All right, Karen, so if you want to get a job, get your LinkedIn profile. Do you agree with Karen, Jose? Well, tell me why you agree with her. You know, Karen said, here are the top 6 reasons why you should do LinkedIn profile. Do you agree with those 6 tips? One by one. Tell me what you think about that. Well, you know, it might be a good idea. You see, other people are talking about it, but you haven't talked about it yet.
Right.
Just by diving into that and putting that on your website, you will establish yourself as somebody who's done the hard work. Okay, now let me talk to him.
Okay. I like that. I mean, that's really great advice.
Yeah.
And I think it's underestimated sometimes how when you have taken the time to do that and you have put in the work to do the blog posts, how quickly you can be seen as influential, right? So you may be on the same path as somebody else. You may have been hired the same day and have the exact same experience, but if you're blogging along the way, 2 years from now, when you've got, you know, a couple hundred blog posts under your belt, or a couple thousand if you're Bill, you instantly get seen as more credible, even though you've had the same work experience over the past couple of years.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, you put in the time. You put in the time. There's a whole lot of people who say, I'm somebody, but they haven't put in the time.
Right.
Now, Karen brought up the number a couple of years from now, 1,000 or 200 or whatever blog posts. Well, the empirical data is in. All right. If you haven't written 400 blog posts, you're nowhere yet. As far as organic, now you'll get found and you can prove me wrong. There's always anomalies, but the general wisdom is if you haven't spent 4, 5, 6 months, sometimes 8 or 9 months, if you haven't spent about 5 or 6 months and put in 400 really good articles about the very things we've been talking about, you're just kind of muddled in the sandbox. You know, the majority of websites are abandoned. Just like Jose, Jose, 3 months from now, I'm going to wonder where you are. You know, about 3 months in, 90% of websites are abandoned. They come in, they're going to change the world, and they find that's a lot of hard work. I don't want to do that. And they're gone. So for the first 3 or 4 months, websites aren't even properly indexed because nobody cares. So let's build some quality site. Let's spend 200 articles, let's put 300 articles, let's put 400 articles in there. About 5 or 6 months, and you'll see this sudden rise come up. Now I mentioned my students earlier in the blab here. that I have a dozen examples of this where they wrote for 4 months and nothing happened. And all they thought was, my instructor's an idiot. I've been working for 4 months and nothing happened. Bill Belew's an idiot. The professor's an idiot. And then it climbs out of the sandbox. I've seen it happen over and over again. And then about 3 months ago, HubSpot, everybody knows HubSpot, they went into their 13,000 client database, and they said, look at these 13,000 people, these 13,000 clients we work with. Look who gets traffic, and when they get traffic, it's somewhere around 6 months and 400 articles. Well, see, I knew that 2 years ago, but HubSpot validates. And you know, HubSpot, you pay too much for what you don't need, but they do great research. I'll give them kudos for doing great research. They really do. They do. But if you don't do 400 articles, and if you haven't done it for about 5 or 6 months, if you haven't put in the work, nobody cares. Nobody cares. You can stand up and shout, come. It's tiring.
How many words do you think would you be shooting for in a blog post?
That's my question. Great mind.
How many words go into a blog post?
Yeah. Like, what would be the average that you would look to shoot for?
As much as I love you, Karen, that's a dumb question. You know, you've heard the expression, there are no dumb questions. Well, there are dumb questions. Right, the answer to the question is how long your blog post should be is how long does it take to answer the question? So people put different queries in a search engine box.
Okay.
And you want to write an answer that satisfies that question.
Okay.
So now, what you're asking me instead is, how long or how short can I go and still be found by a search engine? That's a different question, right?
Yes, probably. Because I'm thinking of even these videos. If I put this in a blog post every week, I still have to add some content, some text to the video.
Right. So exactly. So here's the I'll give you a vague answer to the question. I'll give you a specific answer to the question. So earlier on in the blab, I mentioned, when was the last time you found the answer to a search query in the 300th, 400th, 500th, or 600th word? The answers are not down there. It's always in the first couple hundred words. Equals, I need to write a blog post that's at least a couple hundred words. Otherwise, it's not going to be found in the search query. Now, here's a lesson I learned that was really, really hard for me to learn. Because this is back before, you know, these huge companies were able to articulate things. I was writing a news site, and in this news site, we would get picked up by Google News. And so I'd write an article, Google News would pick it up. I'd write an article, Google News would pick it up. I'd write an article, Google News would pick it up. I'd write an article, Google News would not pick it up. Oh, what happened? And then I'd write another one, they'd pick it up. I'd write another, they wouldn't pick it up. So sometimes they'd pick it up, sometimes they wouldn't pick it up. And then we began to play with that. Well, they picked up this one, they didn't pick that one up. Everything's equal except the length. And so I began to play with the number. How many characters can I put in here in order to get picked up? And how many characters, you know, what's the limit? And by God, I was able to figure that out. If I got too short, they wouldn't pick it up. If I got too long, they would pick it up. Equals, if I have to have this many words to reach into the search engine findability. Now, if we start leaning toward how can I please search, it's very dangerous, because it's not about search, it's about people. We want to please real people. That's why I say, how long should the answer be? Long enough to satisfy the question. So if they ask me a question and take me 200 words to answer it, I should write 200 words. An 800-word answer to a 200-word question is too long.
Or two blog posts.
That's right. But if I ramble on for 800 words just because I want to please the search engine,
right,
I've gone on too long. I annoyed my reader. But if I give a 200-word answer to an 800-word question, I have not supplied enough information. So I have not satisfied my reader. So I want to write the content that satisfies whatever the question is being asked. But if you ask the question, what's the minimum requirement to appeal to a search, it's about 1,024 characters. Characters. It's about 157 words. So you think, I'm going to write 158 words and call it a day, and it's not going to work. So I tell people write 200, 250 words.
Right.
If you can't say it, that's about 1 page, A4 size, right? That's 1 page on a WordPress document. You know, spend enough time to answer the question.
Bill, I have a question.
You know, by the time you create a good title you reiterate what you promised in the title. I'm going to spend 25 words reiterating, this is the promise I made. And then you write point, and you spend 50 words, that's 150 words, 25, that's 175 words plus title. Then you put clear headers in there. Here's what I'm delivering to you. You've got 250 words and you're done. But by all means, I never want people to think, well, Bill, just find please search engines. I'll throw up on my computer again. It's all about real people. It's all about real people.
Really good advice.
Answer the question that you promised to answer. That's how long it should be.
That's really good advice. That's really good advice. I guess my thinking was, if I'm going to do it, I want to make sure there's enough there to make it worth my time.
Right. So aim for 200, 250 words, about a page.
Okay. So I have a question. I do PR tip in a minute on YouTube, and I used to do them all the time until I found out that Google won't crawl it unless it's 5 minutes. So I have all these tips written out that are probably 200 words. Is there an advantage or a disadvantage if I were to go in and have my VA say, here are 30 potential blog posts, title, content, whatever, and just put them all on my blog at one time?
No, that'd be dumb. I'd call you dumb now. I'm sorry, Christina. I love you.
It's not just me.
If you have 30 of them, I'd put them up there one a day for the next month. I wouldn't put them all.
Okay.
Or one a week for the next 30 weeks, whatever works for you. So I would call Monday tip day, right? And then I'd put up one of those every week for the next 30 weeks, and people get used to coming to you every week because you've got a new tip every Monday. Or Wednesday, or every Friday, or something like that.
And that's pretty much what I'm doing with the social media tips that I'm doing. I'm having her post one a week, and I have a stash of them so I try to stay 5 or 6 weeks ahead. So she's always got something to post.
Okay.
I can before we go anywhere. You promised me I could do this. Whoops.
Yeah.
Right? Oh, I've got a webinar tomorrow.
Oh yeah, definitely share it.
Whoops, dang it. And I want to invite people to the webinar because I've got a case study. Now I put it in the message there. If you can click on to see if that actually goes where it's supposed to go.
Yep. I just clicked it. It works.
All right, so I've got that link to your account, Karen, so people know.
Oh,
so I've got a case study. This is a case study about a grandmother. It's a grandmother. She's a young grandmother. She's in her 50s or so. And she remarried into a guy who's a retired cop. Okay, the retired cop, she's a grandmother. It's a blended family. He brought in kids, she brought in kids, and they had a kid. All right, so it's kind of messy, right? But what I want to say by the messy factor is they're real people just like us. They're real people just like us. They have life going on. They can't work today because they've got a toothache. Got to go pick the kid up from school or whatever. Got to babysit the grandkids because they're their own kids. They're idiots or something like that. Well. I gave them a class about 2 years ago, and off they went. I'm going to dive into the case study tomorrow. I'm going to open up Google Analytics, and I'm going to show this to people. Here are the Google Analytics. Watch this. I'm going to do it live, so I don't have any way to finagle anything. And I'm going to show you where they were 2 years ago. I'm going to show you where they are now. Well, what happened was they do cutting boards, right? They break up pieces of wood. We live in California, so we have to save the world out here. So we go out and rescue pieces of wood and glue them together and repurpose them. Well, they do that. Well, they have to glue these things together. Well, what she posted on Facebook about 4 or 5 days ago, maybe a week ago, she posted on Facebook that they used to buy these buckets of glue, a gallon of glue, every 3 months, every 13 weeks, every 3 months they'd buy a bucket of glue to put these cutting boards to sell them. Now they buy a bucket of glue every week. Every week. They are 13 times busier than they were 2 years ago. And 2 years ago, they were making maybe $1,000 a week as a hobby doing this. Well, 1,000 times 13 is 13,000.
Wow.
Times 50 weeks, that's $650,000. Now, I'm not going to say show me your bank account, but I have a pretty good idea, as a hobby, and I know how much they were working, and I'm not trying to betray them or anything, but if they went from $1,000 a week to $13,000 a week, this is a grandmother and her retired cop husband living life just like the rest of us. And they were able to multiply. Turn their hobby into a full-time source of income. And the only thing they did was blog.
Wow.
They just started putting blogs on their website. They never sold anything outside of California in their life. And the first Christmas, they killed it. They beat Macy's. They beat Bed Bath & Beyond. They beat Crate & Barrel for their niche topic.
Wow, that's awesome.
These two people just like us, right? Were able to beat the big dogs in their niche topic. And they're still beating them. A year later, they were beating them even more. Right, and so I'm going to dive into a case study tomorrow, and I'm going to explain to people this is what we did. I'm going to give this strategy and all that kind of stuff. And
tell you guys, watch this.
I hope you don't mind me inviting people.
No, you should, because this is what got me going. I need to blog more. I mean, I saw Bill speak at an event, and I just, there was a lot of speakers at that event, and there were a lot of speakers that had big names and big fancy, followings. And Bill was the one I walked away with going, I need to get to know that guy. I mean, he had really good stuff. So you totally want to do that. Let me ask you a question, Bill. If somebody's listening to this in the audio a month from now, is that webinar going to be available on replay to register? Or is it only?
This link will be available for forever and ever. So
okay, so it's
later the link on that.
It's WIL. So it's WIL.by/KarenYanko.
So WIL.B. BY is Belarussia. So I have this little character that they call him Wilby. And so my son created this little cartoon character, it's Wilby. So I went to Belarussia and I bought the .by domain extension.
Oh, that's so cool.
So WL.by. So I use it like a Bitly. I can create these short URLs. So WL.by Karen Yankovich.
And I'll put it in when I edit the video. I'll actually put it up there. I just tagged
Awesome. Yeah, I'm telling you guys, you got to sign up for Bill's webinar, because the actual numbers and having a logical story behind it, it blew my mind. It really did.
You saw this when I was at the IPO in May, but now I have an update to that same account. That's the update. I'm going to show you the update.
Oh, good. I'm looking forward to it.
All right. Thank you guys for letting me be here.
Yeah, we're at 3:30, so thank you, Bill. Karen, I'm going to let you real quick talk about who's next week, because that's your special guest, and I'm so excited about it.
Oh, wait, is next week Sandra?
Sandra, yeah.
Okay, oh my gosh, you guys. So Sandra D. Robinson has a company called, oh my gosh, I can't even think what it's called now. I should have been ready for this. Okay, so Sandra D. Robinson she runs a company. She helps people with video. She helps people with their personal brands, entrepreneurs and small businesses, and how to shop, charisma on camera. That's right. Charisma on camera. So it's about how to use video to really, have more charisma for your personal brand. But Sandra G. Robinson, I originally knew of her as a soap star on Another World 100 years ago. And I told Christina that I had met her, and she was all excited about it too. So I'm really excited, because it's kind of like, to me, she's a massive celebrity. And I met her at a conference about 6 months ago, and we've kind of become friendly. And I'm really excited to have her. Of course, I want to hear about her charisma on camera, but I'm also a little starstruck by her. So
and that's under
link to the lab, so I can post this around when we're done too, or
Christina, what is the link? Oh, hold on, let me find the link right now to the lab.
It should be under yours.
I'll put it in the chat here. So that's Sandra D. Robinson. She'll be here next week. We actually have some amazing guests coming up. Christina and I are lucky to have friends like Bill that are willing to do this kind of thing with us.
I'm not a soap star, but I was in a porn movie once.
Oh,
I'm kidding.
Wow.
I'm kidding. I've never.
That's
a different lab, Bill.
I will say that, like I said, Bill and I met at a conference, and I sent an email out to my list a week or two ago about one of his webinars, and Christina called me and she's like, "Do you know Bill? I need to know him." So Bill's a celebrity friend too. So, all right, you guys, I'll let Christina wrap this up.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. Definitely, we're here every Thursday, 2:30 Eastern Time. Next week, Sandra D. Robinson, and we'll see you then. Thank you so much, Bill Belew.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks for joining us today on our Blab series, Get Seen, Be Heard. If you've missed any episodes, you can always find us at www.getseenbeheardtv.com/YouTube. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, and you'll always be notified when we upload a new episode. We work together with clients, helping them combine social media and PR to get more customers and grow their business. If that sounds like something you'd like to learn more about, visit us at www.soartoprofit.com. We have regular workshops where we combine our expertise and show you how to use social media and publicity to get seen and be heard. See you next week.